So today we're talking about Homer and the Odyssey, 6, lines 48 to 159, specifically for the OCR syllabus. We're doing the examination on, I believe it to be Wednesday. So we're just going to go over the Greek and any relevant notes for this, and also the translation basics that you'll need to know for the main part. So this is the part where Nausicaa wakes up from her dream, tells her parents, and her address to her father. So firstly, you're going to get a translation for 5 marks. So they'll give you a passage such as the following. So as we see, this is basically the very first passage. I doubt they'll give this to you, but what you need to be able to do here is basically give them the main gist of what's going on in relatively accurate Greek. There are various translations, so don't worry if you don't have the same translation as your friend. He may have another one, but as long as it's correct, it will be accepted by the mark scheme. So I've picked one that I've got from the internet, and all I'm doing here is, again, just basically rewriting what's written on there. So I've underlined lovely, thrown in lovely, road, because as you may know, they are all examples of Homer's, description. And he uses these kind of descriptive words and, his descriptive language in order to, portray everything very over the top, emphatically. And if there's a question on this passage and talking about his language, you should definitely be putting that. The close repetition of lovely again, and therefore showing, the general feeling of Nausicaa is positive, it's a happy feeling, she's a good person. That's what you've got to be showing. So ignore the title. So this is the passage right after it. Let's see what they're talking about here. So basically what we've got going on here is Nausicaa, and she has just woken up from her dream. And now she's going in and she's, meeting her parents. She's seeing where they are. She goes inside the house, obviously, and she sees her dad going out the door. She sees her mother, obviously. And so it's a very interesting passage because it does force us to look at quite a few things, in the whole of Homer. So when we're discussing, her mother, so she's sitting at the hearth basically, and at the hearth really shows that she's sitting at the heart of the home. She is the main thing, in this household. And it does, again, for those of you who did Herodotus, was it Herodotus? No, I can't remember where it was from, but there is another area where we see the roles of women. No, it's not Herodotus, yes, in English. For those of you who studied, the play A View from the Bridge, I don't know why I thought it was Herodotus, but for those of you who did that will have seen, male and female roles coming into play, and in a variety of literature, so even in English literature, as I've just been talking about, and in Greek literature, there is this discussion of roles within the household. And here we see, although Nausicaa's mother is, her name's Arete, A-R-E-T-E, and even though she is sitting there spinning the wool, she's doing a very household thing, something which the woman usually do in the house. She's actually at the heart of the home. She's really important, and Homer's actually emphasizing the equal values of a mother and a father. The father does public events, obviously, the patri, and he's the ambassador for the household. He is the most important thing. It's also shown by, this is why Nausicaa goes to her father to ask for permission rather than her own mother. So it's interesting there how Homer actually, although he shows that they have very different roles in the household, how they are equal. They are actually equal to each other. Right, so obviously the next one talks about, her father, who's called Alcinous, and he goes out of the household to meet with the famous elders, and, he's very important, obviously, in this community. Yeah, I think also what's important is that if this is in the passage anywhere, hang on a minute, well, it's going to be coming up anyway. I think it may be in the next bit. No, it's here, yeah. So the fact that she can stop her father from going to a meeting here, so it's it's quite important, obviously, that she can stop her father, because it shows how close of a relationship they do have with each other. You know, it's not just anyone that can stop her father, who is one of the most respected people in this community, from going to a meeting to meet with the famous elders. And the fact that she's able to do that shows the closeness of their relationship as a whole. And this undermines the whole of this beginning section of Homer. It shows, you know, the close relationship that they do have. Yeah, so in my notes I've got here the passage comments on the role of men and women. We've talked about that. Her mother's spinning, which is, you know, associated with good women and intelligent. Her mother is known to be quite intelligent. Obviously, sea purple is quite a royal colour. Her father does the public things. However, her mother does have unusually large amounts of power. She's shown to be able to settle disputes between the men, not necessarily in the passage that you're required to know, but beforehand, she's shown to be able to do this. Yeah, so I think that is the basics of Odysseus. And now the next passage is really interesting. I do like the next passage. So let's the first passage. Right, her little address to her father. Now it reveals quite a lot what is to come. There's a lot of foreshadowing in this. So first of all, Papa, very emphatic. The first word of her whole speech is Papa. And it's also an interesting word because it's suitable for a wheedling child, a young child talking to their father. Yeah, and she's always trying to flatter him. You know, she's trying to, you know, be all soft and kind and say, "Oh, Daddy, please can you do this for me?" And she's trying to use that sort of language, that emotional language, so that she can get what she wants, which is not manipulative necessarily. It's just, you know, what a lot of daughters do to their fathers. Right, so the seventh word in that line, yes, the seventh word in that line, so Odysseus, so I probably pronounced it horribly wrong, but it's an optative, so it makes it a lot more gentle and tentative. So let me just make that easier for you lot to understand. That is just down here. That is an optative, and the reason why it's good is because it makes it gentle, it makes it more tentative for, you know, us to understand and us to see how, again, she's manipulating her father almost. So this is a very optative word. This is oh dear, handwriting's horrible. So so it's optative. Right, right, here we go. This is, you know, yeah, okay, so this little phrase here, for those of you who have, you know, revised about Homer in quite detail will know this is very important, because it is a sort of stock epithet, which we do know that Homer loves to use. So this describes a high, well-wheeled wagon. It is the centre of Nausicaa's value. She is a very wealthy princess. She has the ability to have such great wagon, and it shows to those who are walking by her, you know, as she goes with her female companions to bathe. It shows all the potential suitors to show how wealthy she is, and the fact that he can, you know, create a high wagon, a well-wheeled one, it's very suitable, as it, you know, gives the suitors something well to look upon her. So that's quite important. That's a stock epithet, something used by Homer a lot. And, you know, if they do ask about stylistic features, that is, you have to mention that. You need that in your answer. Right, next. Pluta, which here is spelled slightly differently, isn't it? Yeah, that's strange. I thought I had the same one down as I originally did. Yeah, that's spelled differently, so this, I think this is fine as well, but, you know, whichever translation you have, whichever copy of the Greek you have, it may be different. That, again, shows the extent of their own wealth. You know, it means famed, renowned. It's very important because, again, this is all about showing Nausicaa's wealth and her value and her standards to her suitors, who are eventually going to come along and try and, you know, woo her with their own words. So it's very important because it comes in, you know, high and well-wheeled, so that I may take along my glorious clothes. You know, again, she's taking her glorious clothes, which are laying here soiled and whatever. But yeah, that's very important. It's very good because it shows Nausicaa's argument here, which is actually quite a good argument. No one is doing anything here, so she needs to step up and do something. Shows her, you know, she's trying to be very active, responsible person. Yeah, I think there's a bit to talk about in this passage. Alto here, again, emphatic to emphasise his own power. You know, she's saying that you should be able to deliberate with the first citizens, you know, with clean clothes on your back, and you yourself, you know, you should be able to do this. Boulas Boluane is also quite important because the figure etymologica, now those are two words which are derived from the same, you know, word, effectively, and there's the alliteration of the beta here, and that's just it's a great gravitas here. She is dealing with something very important here. You know, these are the council with the first citizens, you know, they are the most important people, and it is compulsory he has to find this close to her father. So she's, you know, trying to show that also you would benefit from this as well. You know, and also this did come up in Herodotus, if those of you who did it, talking about Telos the Athenian who had children, and having children was held with great honour, you know, it's blessed by the gods in Greece. So obviously he's been a very blessed man. So again, this is all talking about the prosperity of their family. Thalathontes she implies her brothers are especially important. So she's again becoming mature. So if there you know, things you can pull out of this passage, her own prosperity, you know, her family's prosperity, and also how mature and responsible she's trying to be. Okay, and she's pretending to be, rather, because we all know the real reasons, because she wants to, you know, find a suitor. Yeah. So this is all really good and everything, and she says, oh yeah, you know, I'm going to do it for our family, you know, so we can all have good clothes to wear and everything, and, you know, all of that, yada 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 yada. But then this really suddenly reveals these things. So these things are all a concern to my mind, shows that these are the most important things. The reason why she's doing it is this, panta, so it's all, so it's quite emphatic, you know, so yeah, that's also very important. Yeah, so the Thalathontes there, that was important. Yeah, I think apart from that, you know, yeah, I think obviously the Potamon here is foreshadowing what's about to happen to her. She's about to go down to the river and meet, you know, Odysseus, who will freak her out. Yeah, but there's quite a lot of people out here. I mean, if they go to this passage, yeah, Papa is obviously very important. Dear Papa as well. Phil. So yeah, there's, you know, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. There's about 10 things you could pull out here, you know, and obviously two main things running through this are her maturity, so her maturity, and also about how she, you know, as well as being responsible, the prosperity of the family. You know, they're a very prosperous family, and, you know, it shows their wealth, and it shows also the reason why, you know, the goddess Athene came down, gave her the dream, which is important. Athene gave her the dream, and she wanted her to wake up and take Odysseus so she can meet the father, who's the most important person here, you know, in Shari. You know, so it's set in Shari. So this whole story is set here. That's how you spell it. Shari. Yep. These are all Phoenicians, like Dido, if you studied Virgil for the Latin, you know, and Nausicaa's a princess on this island. Yeah, so that is basically the first two passages that you need to understand about Homer's Odyssey. So if you can talk about that, you know, good sentence, good English, you know, and really speculate, you know, give your own analysis, you know, pick out important points. If they say language, pick out language. If they say stylistic features, pick out the stylistic features that we went on about. Epithets, there are more of these, you know, coming in. You know, alliteration, assonance goes in Herodotus. Chiastic arrangements, so obviously Boulas Boulathane was one. So it stresses that, you know, the stress is not on the phrases, but on the participial phrases, you know. And, you know, the repetition, close repetition, figure etymologica, you know. There's also similes that come into this, you know, later on, where Nausicaa is compared to Artemis, a very strong goddess, and Odysseus as a ravening lion. You know, the lion obviously is quite important. For those of you who have read on, it's about when Odysseus, you know, is woken up by the ball, misthrown by one of the maids, and he's described as a lion feeding on the sheep. You know, it's funny, you know, but it's also threatening, you know. It's comic because, you know, the context of using a line is very similar to that in battle, to someone who's entering battle, but Odysseus is far from that. He's a naked man sitting there who hasn't woken up for days on end, you know, it's a very comical effect. But he does contrast this with, again, the use of threatening, you know, threatening simply, you know, he's feeding on sheep, you know, how, you know, Odysseus can feed on, you know, Nausicaa and her group, you know, how he's threatened, obviously holding, you know, virginity and all that kind of marriage is very important in this time, and Odysseus poses a threat. She's of marriageable age now, Nausicaa, and he poses a threat to her in that sense as well. So it's, again, the use of that. As we spoke about the community of the Phoenicians, you know, they're an ideal community. Sharia is depicted as the home to an ideal city-state. Nausicaa's mother, Arete, you know, does not speak. She's engaged in most of the work, you know, at home. She's a homemaker. Alcinous is, you know, entering the political world. Although the Greek ideal is that women should be kept indoors, you know, back then, and public activity, especially politics, is really for men. Nausicaa is modest, you know, she's respectful to her father, again showing that, but then it does show that this is a really close-knit and caring family, you know? Little touches, you know, like the colloquial sense of papa. Colloquial would be a really good use, you know, a description of this word. Papa is colloquial, so we can describe that, you know, and show how it's again close-knit, and also you have to remember that Homer is really trying to show that the father and mother, you know, Alcinous and Arete, they are both equal within the household. Although they do very different roles, they're both equal, you know? And also, Odysseus is a suppliant. So a suppliant is basically someone who, obviously, when he's writing this, when he's going through this and he was writing this Odysseus, he wanted to make sure that his descriptions of everyone, you know, he's a powerless figure. So basically, this is Nausicaa in this case. So let me just get the dictionary definition up. That is a person who supplicates, or making an expression of humble or earnest plea. So what that is asking or begging for something earnestly or humbly, you know? So our epic hero, this is a really interesting thing. Our epic hero, who is Odysseus, you know, he's meant to travel the world, he's meant to do all these great things, and he's begging from a girl who's only just on the brink of being marriageable, and he's begging her, he goes on his knees to her. You know, and that could be shown as a sign of respect, but it's really interesting how he's supplicating himself to her, basically. He stays immodest away from her, you know, but then Nausicaa's response is equally good, because she offers him food, she offers him, you know, water, she takes him back to her father, so it's again this really nice ideal of the Shrean community. And obviously, the other main theme running through Homer is romance. I mean, this is all about romance, you know. Again, there's sexual connotations in there. Will they, won't they do it? You know, different things are going through this, and we don't know. It obviously ends up that they won't do anything romantically. But, you know, it's a nice way of just, you know, getting us on the edge, you know, and making us really understand what's going through. So, yeah, I mean, she, obviously, Nausicaa acts as a good woman, you know, she doesn't, you know, fall to her own desires, and, you know, this may be good, but it's really in the power of the gods, you know. You know, everything here is done from the divine power. They are controlling all of our characters in this. And Odysseus does seem to manipulate, you know, the crush and everything, and he needs to make sure he supplicates himself to Nausicaa. But really what's going on is, you know, this romance isn't going to have any actual effect on what the real story is about, you know, Odysseus getting home now. But it's just a nice way of getting us into the story, you know. It's, again, one of his themes and motives, you know, throughout the play. Well, not the play, rather, but, you know, this epic, really. But, yeah, so far, that's really all there is, you know, in terms of themes, and those are the first few passages. You know, if you just talk about that, you know, read the question, make sure you know what they're talking about, language, stylistic features, positioning of words, you know, papa, emphatic position, you know, panta, also emphatic position, there's one beforehand, you know, I can't remember what it was, but there was one beforehand about emphatic positioning. There's quite a lot. It's not as much emphatic positioning in this, because this is obviously not meant for vocal speech, but, you know, there is an element of it. I don't think they'll ask you a question. Again, the translation is very simple. Recite your you know, translation. That's all you got to do. And yeah, I think that's all. So good luck to those of you who are doing it on Wednesday. I will try and upload another video on another few passages, but apart from that, yep. thank you for listening.